Welcome to Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy, and this is my nest. You may have noticed that I got my hair cut. It's become a thing these past few years that at the beginning of summer I'll get my hair cut short. And this year, all the salons are closed, at least where I live. And this past week, it was up into the 80s and it was really humid. I knew I needed to get my hair cut. So the question was, how was I going to do it? I can do the front myself okay, but I can't do the back. So I really couldn't, I didn't want to do it myself. So I enlisted my husband. Now, I have cut his hair for years. We got a clipper set. I can't tell you how many years ago. I've been cutting his hair. So I thought, oh, well, we'll just put the longest clipper on there and buzz it. So it was 1 inch, and he did it for me. It's all buzzed. So here I am, and now I'm nice and cool for summer. Today I'm wearing the Lionberry shawl. It's made with Hue Loco vintage sock and King fiber, soft and springy. Here's how it turned out. One of the things I love about this shawl is look how the edges curl like that. I think that's super cool. Oh, I'm holding you the back side. Here's the front side. The right side, as we would say. And it goes just about as long as my arms will reach. I'll put a picture of the original up here, and you can take a look at it for a moment. I did make some modifications, as is my wont. First of all, the major modification was the original was done in a solid color, and I had 2 colors left over from the baby sweater that I made, and that's what I wanted to use. I had more of the yellow and less of the blue, so I made the yellow the main color, and then I striped with the blue. For most of it, I used the blue for the lace portions and the yellow for the textured portions. So I don't know if you can see, but the top is kind of like is a seed stitch, and then under that you probably can't see it real well, but it's like an arrowhead pattern, and then the blue lace pattern has circles in it, and then under that the yellow has, it's like a rib stitch broken up with a faggoting stitch. The original pattern ended after the last blue lace eyelet section, and I was considering ending it right there, but when I measured out the length of the wingspan, I thought it was a little bit too short. In the winter, when I have a collared shirt on today, but if I'm not wearing a collared shirt and the back of my neck is exposed, that's what I like these little shawls for, is to cover up the back of my neck to keep it warm. So what I will do is I will wear it like this. I'll cover up the back of my neck, and then I will tuck the ends in the back like this. So the ends had to be long enough to reach to make that tuck. And then I'll wear it like this. And it keeps my neck warm when I don't have a turtleneck on. So I didn't think that the wingspan was long enough. So I added a few more rows, and I still had yarn left over. So I thought, oh well, I'll just go ahead and use up as much of this yarn as I can. And I've always liked some of the slip stitch patterns. I had, at that point, I had equal amounts of the blue and the green left. So I did 3 striping rows. I So there's the blue stripe, which is the lace, and then there's 3 striping rows, a yellow, a blue, and a yellow with dot slip stitch. It's a little bit easier to see on the end here. And then I did the edging that she had from the pattern, and I just did it in the contrast. Since the last stripe was yellow, I did it with the blue for the picot edging. Now I have to say, when this first came off the needles, it looked like a mess. It was horrible. And I was worried, because this is superwash yarn, I was worried that it might not block as well as a non-superwash. But, ta-da! It blocked great, and I'm so happy with it. See how the edge really, it curls up a lot. Right on the very tip you can see it curling over itself. And I guess that's what gives it that nice curl when you hold it like this and it wraps around itself on the edge. It gives it that nice curl. I think it's really pretty. Now, one of my viewers from the last episode said, "Oh, that would make a great mom gift to go with the baby sweater for the baby." And after she said that, I thought, you know what? You're right. So I've decided to give this along with the baby sweater to the mom. I think that's an awesome idea. Next up, I have put together a short, well, I don't know how short it is, a little tutorial of the Arna short row that I use for the sock heel. This is my second sock, and I recently turned this heel, and I filmed it for you so you can see how it's done. I'm going to insert that here. Here I'm at the heel of my second sock, and I'm getting ready to do the short row heel. So what I've done here is I have 72 stitches on this sock. So I put half of them on one needle. This is where I'm going to do my short row heel. And then the other half of the stitches I divided over 2 needles to put on hold till I'm ready to use them again. Now for Arna's short row heel, I'm going to show you how I do this. When you're working down, so I'm going 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, so I'll be going down back and forth down to 12 stitches. And when you're working down, you just slip the first stitch and then knit to the end. So I'm slipping one and then I'll be knitting 35. So I just realized I said I was knitting when in fact I am actually purling. I'm on the back side. So I slipped the first stitch and I purled 35. Now I'm going to turn the work, and now I'm really going to be knitting. So I'm going to slip the first stitch, and now I'm only going to knit 34 because I'm going to do one less than what I had before. So now I'll knit across 34 stitches. Okay, so now I've knit my 30, I slipped one, knit 34, there's one left on this left needle, but I'm not going to knit that one. I'm going to turn the work, bring my yarn forward. Now I'm going to slip the first stitch, and now I'm going to knit 33, so one less. So I had one stitch unworked, slip the first stitch, and then work 33 down to the other end. Now, just like on the knit side, I worked my 33 stitches. I have one left on the left hand needle that I'm not going to work. Now I'm going to turn. I have that one unworked stitch on my right needle now. I'm going to slip the first stitch and then knit 32 stitches down. I'm going to keep working this way, going down and back in short rows, working one less stitch each time until I have 12 stitches in the middle unworked. Okay, here I've finished going down my short rows. So I have 12 stitches unworked here on the left. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Here on the right needle, I have 12 stitches that I just finished working. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then I have the other 12 that are unworked on this side. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So now I just finished working these 12 and 12. Now I'm going to turn the work. And now I'm going to start going up. 13, 14, 15, 16. So to start, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slip the first stitch, then I'm going to knit 11 because that'll make the 12 with the slip stitch. Actually, I'm going to knit 10 because I'm going to knit stitches in 11 and 12 together, you'll see. So there's one slipped, one worked, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now here you can see I have 2 stitches left, 10 and 11, and then there's the gap. So I'm going to work stitch 10 and then 11 and 12. Here, this one I'm going to work together. In this case, I'm going to do a slip, slip, knit. Slip, slip, knit. Sorry, that got split there. There we go. Slip, slip, knit. Now, since I just did a decrease, a slip, slip, knit, I will now need to increase to compensate for the stitch that I just lost. So I'm going to do a lifted increase. The stitch that I just made on the needle is the daughter stitch. The stitch under it that I just knit off of the left needle is the mother stitch, and then the stitch below that is the grandmother stitch, and that's the one I'm going to do the lift out of. So I'm going to go into the left leg of the grandmother stitch, which is here somewhere. There we go. It's difficult to see with this dark yarn, but so I went into the grandmother stitch. So the daughter stitch is the stitch I just knit that's on the needle. The mother stitch is the one immediately below, and then the grandmother stitch is the row below. Picking up the left leg from the grandmother stitch and knitting it. That's my lifted increase. Now I'm going to turn. Slip the first stitch and purl to the gap. Okay, here I'm almost to the gap. I have one stitch, well, I have 2 stitches to the gap, but I'm going to purl one stitch, and then the next stitch I'm going to purl together over the gap with. So I have one more stitch to purl, and then these 2 stitches, the last stitch of my row plus the next unworked stitch, I'm going to purl 2 together to close the gap. Okay. Now I'm also going to do another lifted increase here to make up for the stitch I lost. The daughter stitch is on the needle. The mother stitch are the 2 that I just purled together, And then the grandmother stitch is the one from the row below. So I'm going to pick up the left loop from the grandmother stitch and purl into that. And now I have my correct number of stitches again. Now I will turn and do the same thing. I'm going to slip the first stitch and then knit over to the gap. Okay, here I am. I have to knit one more stitch and then I have the gap. So I'll knit this last stitch. Here's my gap. I'm going to do a slip slip knit to work these two stitches together. Hopefully I won't split it this time. Here we go. Let's try it, give it one more try. These pointy needles sometimes split. Okay, so daughter stitches on the needle, mother stitches are the two that I just knit together, and then the grandmother stitch is the row below that. So I go fishing into the grandmother stitch to find the left leg, and I'm going to knit into that left leg to make up for the stitch that I lost. Turn the work, slip the first stitch, and purl to the gap. I'm almost at the gap. I have one more stitch to knit, or purl. Okay, purl the last stitch. Now I'm at the gap. I'm going to purl these two together. Okay, and then I'm going to go fishing in the grandmother stitch, pull up the left leg of the grandmother stitch, and purl that left leg. Turn the work, and then continue as before till I've worked all the unworked stitches and I'm back to working the full 36 stitches. Okay, I'm at my very last short row. So I have one more stitch to purl. I'll purl the last two together. Go into the grandmother stitch to make a stitch. And turn. And my short row heel is finished. That's what it looks like. Hard to see, I know, because of the dark colors. And then on the inside, it looks like this. Now I just have to redistribute my stitches off of this third needle, and I'll be ready to start working around in the round and going up the cuff of my sock. Ta-da! What am I working on now? Well, I have this yarn. I have a blue, a pink, and a gray. And this is Mountain Laurel yarn, which I purchased at the Pottstown Knit Out this past January. And I've been thinking about what I want to use this yarn for. And I was also thinking, I need a new pair of mittens. Now when I make mittens for myself, I almost always make stranded mittens. Because my feeling is that they're just somehow warmer. You know, with the 2 layers of the stranding going on, they have to be warmer. And my hands are always cold, so I have all these colors, and so I thought I would make a stranded pair. So I went through my library and settled on a pattern from this book. It's called Selbuvata, and it's by Terry Shea. Selbuvata means mittens from Selbu, which is an area or a town in Norway. And the pattern in here that I picked is called NHM number 9. So that's this one. And I'll show you, I've started the cuff here. I'm so excited. These are going to be so much fun to make. So we'll see, maybe by next time they'll be finished. We have one more week of red phase where I live. Next Friday in a week, we should be moving to the yellow phase. Not exactly sure how things are going to change moving to yellow, but restrictions will be loosening and we'll be able to venture further afield, I assume. How are things where you live? Are you able to get out and do your normal life, or are you still restricted? I hope things are well with you. Let me know in the comments what's going on, how you're doing, what you're knitting. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.